Turbo and 2K show.
What is up, 2K crew? It is that time of the week again. 2Ks, we got one hell of a show. Hell of a show. I'm super excited about this. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Happy Sunday. Yes, you are watching the Turbo and 2K show. I am Ryan Turbo Jackson. That is Kyle 2K's Kaler over there. And we are live over on YouTube, over on Facebook, and on our TikTok. So welcome, everybody. Get locked in because we got one hell of a show ready for you. 2Ks, how was your weekend, brother?
It was good. Real good. Yeah. Didn't really do a whole lot. We went golfing Friday night, so that was nice. It's the first time I've golfed in a while. And then hung out last night. We were supposed to be going to the Michael Jackson cover band concert over in the Warner Vineyards in Paw Paw, but that ended up getting canceled.
Because Mike couldn't show up.
He was busy. He was busy doing some other things, but no.
Yeah,
so that got canceled. So then we ended up just going out to dinner, hanging out today. Didn't do a whole lot. Did a little bit of fishing today with the kids, and here we are.
Awesome. Yeah, you definitely had if any of y'all had a wedding reception, a graduation party, or any reason to be outside this weekend, you couldn't beat it.
No.
But before we do get into the show, I did want to take a special time here. One of Marcellus's greats, as well as personal friends of ours, Mr. Ron Terrell, passed away suddenly this morning, so we did want to give him a big shout out. T's and P's to all the family, friends. He will be missed more than he'll ever know. But Kenna, Blake, everyone on the Terrell family, we are thinking of you. Like I said, our thoughts and prayers are with you. And if you need anything, let us know. And if you're looking for a laugh, just throw this on. I mean, why not? Why not? Well, 2Ks, we got some news, like I said, and we're going to we really haven't seen each other since the All-Star game. Just want to glance over that. But the main reason we're here today is we're going to be picking each one of the college game day locations. I really wish I would have given. I saw a different podcast doing this on TikTok, and I probably should have gotten their name down, at least given them a shout out. But I thought, well, hell, that'd be a really cool kind of way to get the juices flowing for football season. I know you've been attached to the TV with college football 2K25 or whatever the hell it's called.
Oh my God, yeah. So I started in my dynasty, and I didn't want to start big like everybody else. I wanted to start with, at the small school. So I took, cut my teeth with my first job with Western Michigan University. Spent 2 years there. Then
PJ Flex style, huh?
Got a job offer to go to the University of South Florida. Went there, turned that program around after a couple years. And then ACC came knocking, so I went to Louisville, and I am now in Louisville. I'm year number 1, in the process of turning them into the powerhouse of the ACC, and we're gonna take that over from Florida State and some others, and then and Clemson, and then we're gonna move into now. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens here in the future. I want to get once the Big Ten, school in the Big Ten or in the SEC calls, I'm definitely, I got one foot out the door, but we're in the process right now.
I love it.
Of turning programs around. That's what I do.
That's what I do. So how many are they in national championships? Are there any
Not national
Heisman's
championships. I'm just my second year at South Florida actually had the number 18 recruiting class. Ooh. So, that's when I got there, it was like in the 50s. Mm-hmm. So to bring that to number 18, they were ranked. We won a bowl game. I can't remember what it was. I think it was the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Ooh. Was what we played in. Yeah, so we won the Pop-Tarts Bowl over NC State, and then it was just Louisville called, and it was just perfect timing for pack up the family and get to Louisville. So
that can be hard because you do have kids, and
absolutely.
Pulling them in and out of schools can be tough, but you got to go where the money is. Yep. You got to go where the money is. Got to go where the talent is. So I completely understand that. Well, good. I'm glad you could tear yourself away to come help me entertain the thousands and thousands of the 2K crew. But let's jump into some news here real quick, 2Ks. And yes, for those of you that are watching on Facebook or YouTube, yes, I know the word locations on these slides are spelled wrong. I did not realize that until about 20 minutes ago. So we're just going to roll with it. We're going to deal with it. And if you know me, you know I'm a shitty speller to begin with. So shouldn't shock anybody. Some news here, 2Ks. Let's start off on a happy foot here. Jim Leland went into the Hall of Fame today.
Yeah.
Along with Todd Helton, Joe Mauer, and who's the other one? Shit. Probably should have came a little bit better equipped for this. But Brad Galley from, I can't remember which Detroit syndicate he works for, posted on Twitter. Jim Leland rode in the baseball. The most obvious one we have to forget, yes. In the Baseball Hall of Fame parade in Cooperstown, today the former Tigers manager will be officially inducted into the Hall, and rightfully so. Mm-hmm. I think it was way too long for Jim to wait to get into the Hall, but nonetheless, he is in there. So congratulations to him. And one of the more kind of heartfelt and entertaining speeches I've seen. And I know for you, the Hall of Fame can be kind of a touchy subject, but I honestly think out of the guys that got in, the only one you could probably, in my opinion, you could argue with is Todd Helton. But
yeah, but I mean,
he had a great career too.
He did. He had a great career. He's a over 300 hitter. For over 1,400 RBIs. Yeah, it's hard to argue him. I mean, really, it is. I think for him. A lot of it. Well, I mean, he played his entire career in Colorado, and I think when you are a player of the Rockies, you kind of just get overlooked.
Yeah.
And for him, he was played in multiple All-Star games, and I have a hard time really coming up with a true argument on him.
No, and the other two gentlemen,
the other two are
Joe Mauer and Adrian Beltre,
Those are
hands
obvious.
down.
Yeah,
hands down.
Mauer. Injuries, unfortunately, played a huge factor with him because his numbers would have been way, way better. And
especially if he was able to remain as a catcher for longer.
Yep.
But it was good to see Pudge. Pudge looked amazing. Dennis Eckersley looks old, very old. But it was good to see Rod Carew out there, and just a bunch of the. But the overwhelming sensation I gathered from the whole experience was it was hot as fuck. Because there was no shade for the people in the crowd, and it seemed like they gave out little fans to everybody. So everyone has their little fan, and it's like, man, it must really, really be hot. It must really.
And I think kind of touch on Mauer a little bit more in today's game. I think the Twins would have never caught him. I think they would have just protected him. The bat that he had. Obviously, it was kind of hard with the timing. They had Justin Morneau also, and you weren't going to play him anywhere else. And Mauer was basically, if he wasn't catching, he needed to be a first baseman.
Yeah.
But I think with a lot of these young and up and coming players, you see them all the time. They go through the minors and they're catchers, or they are drafted and they're catchers. And then as soon as they get to, especially when you start to pay these guys and you make them a focal point of your organization. You want to get them out from behind the plate, and I think the Orioles are going to be doing it pretty soon, definitely sooner than later with Adley.
Yeah, yep. Especially switch hitter is going to be sniffing a 300 career batting average. Yes, you want to keep that guy in the lineup as long as possible. I like Bryce Harper came up as a catcher. Paul Skeens, oddly enough, came up as a catcher. So, it was a good time in Cooperstown. But let's go across the pond, 2Ks. This is from Foreplay. Light the cigar. Xander wins major number 2 in a Sunday with a Sunday 65 at is it Troon? The course there. His second major of the year.
Yeah.
So
it was honestly. It's not like all your other golf tournaments where you watch it all afternoon. This one is basically wrapped up early afternoon.
Yes.
They tee off late morning, and but I watched a little bit. I watched a lot of his back nine, and kudos to him. I mean, he just went out, and there was some big names up there on the board, including himself, and he just pulled away with it, and just made shot after shot after shot. And when you have And that cannot be easy to do when you have a guy of Scotty Scheffler, that's right there in the thick of things too at the beginning of the day, and some of those other big names, and for him to go out and win it the way that he did, just an incredible day, incredible performance for him.
Yeah, and he, it's. I think with him, it's kind of only a matter of time if he continues this that he will be the number one golfer in the world over Scotty. It just maybe it happens going into next week, but he is one of the members of the U.S. Olympic golf team, which is kind of cool too. So maybe maybe that team can bring home the gold as well.
Well, hopefully the way that things go, they'll actually pick the best golfers in the United States instead of just picking the fucking names
right.
that they sometimes get carried away with when it comes to the Ryder Cup.
Yeah. Tiger doesn't need to be playing in that.
No, I know, and that's the thing. And there's just other big names and that have done it for some time, but we have to give credit to these younger players, these players that have come out of the woodworks these last couple of years, and those players need to be the ones that are suiting up. Absolutely.
I'm not sure why my camera keeps focusing and unfocusing, but we're just going to roll with it. Some power rankings here, 2Ks, kind of leading into the whole All-Star conversation. This is from, I can't see, where is it from? BR Walkoffs on Twitter. They have the Phillies, followed by the Orioles, followed by the Guardians, then the Dodgers, Braves, Yankees, Red Sox, Twins, Brewers, Mariners. Top 10. I think from this, I'm kind of shocked that the Yankees are as high as they are. I would have put Milwaukee ahead of New York right now. Kind of. Again, shocked the Red Sox are so high. Yes, they're on a run, but I mean, yet again, this is power ranking, so it's kind of like who's hot now, who's the best team now. I get that, but as far as the top 10 goes, I have no qualms with this at all. I mean, you could argue positions, but as of right now, all of these teams are going to the playoffs right now, so I really have no issues with that. But I got one more here for you, 2Ks. Oh, I got two more. This is Mr. Kachuk at the Anheuser-Busch Brewery, and he's having one of the Clydesdales drink out of the Stanley Cup. I picked this not because we are a hockey show, but just, man, that's kind of cool. I mean, once it's always fun to see the stories and hear the stories about how these guys get to spend their day with the Stanley Cup, and I don't think I've ever seen anyone have a horse drink out of one. So, I mean, if Joker was a hockey player and he was able to spend time with the Stanley Cup, I'm sure his horse would be drinking out of it. But just kind of cool, Here's our weekly Nolan Ryan tidbit. This is from Baseball History Nut over on Twitter. Nolan Ryan was 44 years old when he pitched his 7th career no-hitter, 2Ks. Blake Snell has never pitched into the 8th inning during his 9-year career. Guess who has 2 Cy Youngs and the one who has 0? Makes you think, huh?
Yeah.
Makes you think. And lastly, it would not be a Turbo and 2K show if we weren't going to ride some Paul Skeens wiener. This is from Pete Abraham at Pete Abe over on Twitter. Most of the All-Stars headed home or somewhere else after they leave the game. Paul Skeens stayed for the whole game, said he wanted to use the opportunity to talk to the older players and learn more. Yes, if that's dick riding, then by all means I will ride it day and night. The kid just gets it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's obvious we see what's going on the mound, but what's between the ears and what's going on off the mound, I mean, the kid's just checking all the boxes, and I can't be happier for him. And like I said, we've preached it over and over again. He is must-watch TV every time he pitches. So, well, with that being said, 2Ks, we kind of touched on it here. All-Star reactions. Mine, I mean, kind of the obvious take was the national anthem for the home run derby sucked.
Oh, yeah, that was bad. It was
I was thinking the very very same thing. I don't know if you got to listen to Baseball is Dead or not, but Jared was like, I thought that I just didn't. I was out of touch, had no idea who this girl was, and this was just her style of singing.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, hand up, that you could ask Kristen. I was like, this is terrible. Like, am I really that old? And then someone on Twitter posted a meme that said, "This is what happens when they take auto tune away from you." But all jokes aside, if she really was intoxicated and she is getting help, kudos to you.
Mm-hmm.
But my overall thing was the game was better than the Derby.
Yeah,
the Derby was very lackluster. Looking back at it, I wish that the player I think both you and I would have taken, Gunnar Henderson, put up the least amount of home runs.
Yeah. And the thing about it is your true best home run hitters are still not, in the Derby. Like,
sure.
When you're watching a Derby, I know, trying not to disrespect like a Teoscar Hernandez who ends up winning the thing, and trying not to disrespect, Gunnar and Bobby Witt, and I know that Bobby Witt was in the finals of it, but like when you're watching a Derby, it's kind of similar to watching the NBA dunk contest, and you don't have the best NBA players in the dunk contest. Well, when you're watching in this case, and you're watching it, and Aaron Judge is not hitting in this, and Juan Soto is not hitting in this, and Shohei is not hitting in this, and Bryce Harper is not hitting in it. Those are true home run. They are home run hitters. That's what their swing is set up for. That's what they do best. They're not, and when you watch, guys like Bobby Witt and Gunnar Henderson obviously has a lot of home runs this year, but he's not the guy that's going to hit tape measure home runs all over the place and the stuff that you want to see the Derby. You go back a few years ago when the Derby was kick ass and everybody loved watching it. That was the years of Josh Hamilton being in it, and Big Papi, big names that were in it. Ken Griffey Jr. Yes. I mean the true home run hitters. And when we don't have that, it just, and then I thought if you go back a couple of years ago, it was kind of the best shape that the home run derby was in when they went to the, they got rid of the so-called outs with it, and it just went to a time clock, and then then when that happens, it turns into guys aren't taking pitches, because it used to be guys were taking 4 or 5 pitches and then waiting for theirs, and then when it went to the timer, basically swinging at everything, and it's a lot more exciting to watch. But now, of course, what baseball does best is they got to find fucking ways to screw around with the rules. And what was working and was kind of bringing the home run derby back for a couple years, of course, they fuck with the rules again and try to shorten up the rounds and do whatever they want to do with it. And this is what happens with it. And it's just because baseball does what they do best, and they just can't leave shit alone.
Well, I 100% agree. And for the most part, I liked it last year. Mm-hmm. I thought that was pretty much perfect, because you were able to see, it seemed like guys were getting on runs and putting together, 6, 7, 8 home runs at a time, whereas I think maybe the longest streak was like 3 or 4. And it seemed rather anticlimactic once they got into the bonus round. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It was pitches, not time, or outs, not time. So yeah, I mean, granted, hopefully they go back to that, but as far as the game was concerned, it was a very good game.
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
Good game.
And my last thing I want to say on the Derby too is I bet $20 that Jose Ramirez would hit a home run on the left side and the right side, and he didn't even fucking try the right side. So Jose, if you're out there listening right now, fuck you for not trying to hit a home run on the right side.
Adley did it.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on.
And I can understand in the first round he was trying to make something, and try to make it into the next round, which he did. But then after that, when he was in the second round, it was obvious he wasn't going to win that round. So why not? Why not just try to do it? Then you can just say you hit one from both sides of the plate. And
his power heavy side is the right-handed side.
Yes.
So now there was speculation that one of the whole jet stream theory that's going on in Cleveland, that was kind of aiding a bunch of these Cleveland hitters and being padding their power numbers, and everyone was curious to see which side was he going to go from, and he was flat out said it's going to be like a game time decision. So I was with you. If I was a switch hitter, I mean, if I get in a lull or after the timeout, maybe, hell, why not? Why not? But yeah, it was super. As far as the game's concerned, we pretty much got what we wanted to see. We got to see Paul Skeens face Aaron Judge, even though that was the most ridiculous lineup ever made in the history of All-Star baseball. The dude hit Quan that hit leadoff. No one was there to see him hit leadoff.
No.
Everyone was there to see Paul Skeens face Gunnar Henderson, Juan Soto, and Aaron Judge 1, 2, 3. Mm-hmm. Yes, Stephen Kwan, you played well enough to make the All-Star team, and there's another tank.
Shoo!
And Cutter Crawford that's out of holy shit.
Fucking park. Golly.
Cutter Crawford is giving up meatballs over in LA. But
good night.
But we ended up getting to see that. Yes, it was kind of anticlimactic with the Judge at bat, but we got to see Shohei go deep. And then out of nowhere, Jarren Duran wins the MVP, which was super cool.
Yes, it was.
I obviously, hand up, I'm a Red Sox fan, so I was a little biased. But once you dig in to see what this guy's made of, what he's been through, love the fact that he, in his red carpet jacket, had "fuck 'em" written on the inside of it, had it on his cleats as well. And then this is coming after Major League Baseball told him to not wear the T-shirt that says "fuck 'em" on it. Now it has a star or something over the U, so it's not like it's blatant, but nonetheless, it's like, all right, it's always cool for someone like that to win the MVP. And then coming back in this Dodger series, he's pretty much been the entire offense for the Red Sox. Mm-hmm. So he's taken that momentum and just ridden with it.
Yeah, he had another home run tonight, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yep. First, hit a 2-run shot. So that's their only run scored off Big Maple or Darth Maple or whatever the hell James Paxton's nickname is. But yeah, 2Ks. Let's talk some college football, huh? This is the weird time of year where I kind of get the itch for football. It's been away for long enough. I never want to wish my summer away by any means, but this is the time when it's like, okay, we're getting close to August now.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about summer anymore. It's time I was just telling Child today, I'm like, I want Friday night football, Saturday night football. Well, no, Thursday night football. Mm-hmm. Friday night football, Saturday football, Sunday football, Monday football. I want that back now.
Yes.
Like it's time. It's time.
Well, that, and your Tigers aren't giving you much to root for.
No.
Even though they've put together some.
But now it's to the point where this is what the moment where us Tigers fans get up for the last few years is trade deadlines around the corner, and is it time to let Tariq Skubal walk out the door? I mean, that's what we're about to find out. I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't either.
If a team, especially a team like Baltimore, is willing to throw a player up there, mm-hmm. I mean, it's going to have to be a package deal. But if they're willing to throw a Jackson Holiday in there, or if they're willing to throw the Mayo kid in there and then package it up with 2 or 3 others, I would say you have to do it. Yeah, and that mock trade with the Red Sox is bullshit, by the way. But again, you'd be stupid not to take it. Oh no, yeah. But like for Baltimore, I think it's something that they really need to look into. Sure. Obviously, they probably want to do everything they can to not have to have Jackson Holiday or Mayo in it, and to where the Tigers, I'm not doing it unless one of them is in it, and you can make a case that they want both of them for them because of what you get from. You're getting maybe the best pitcher in the game right now. Yes. You're getting 3 years of control with him. Definitely the best left-handed pitcher right now. I mean, there's no guarantee that Corbin Burns comes back for them next year. They're going to have to pay him. And right now, once you get past Corbin Burns with that rotation and the Rodriguez kid, they got a lot of injuries. They're not ready to make a run at a World Series unless they do something with that pitching staff. So, I mean, and the thing about it is, like, they have so many young players that are basically locked. You know, I know that they're gonna want to take a chance with the Mayo kid, and Holiday's going to get another opportunity again. But if you can get the best pitcher arguably the best pitcher in baseball right now, and you have to get rid of 2 or 3 of your top prospects, to me, if you're Baltimore, what the fuck are you playing for?
Yeah. No, exactly.
You want to keep
100%.
telling everybody that you have the best farm system, or do you want to win a World Series?
Yeah.
And for the Tigers, they're in a completely different situation. To me, if the Tigers walk out of this and I don't want to see them just give Skubal away. Like, there's talk about the Dodgers being interested in Skubal. The Dodgers don't have what it takes to get him, in my opinion. Like, I'm not even willing to talk with them. And I don't want to fucking do anything to help the Dodgers.
No.
So, no. But they don't have anything to even pull that trade off, in my opinion.
Unless they're willing to move Mookie Betts, that would be the only piece that I would want from the Dodgers.
And okay, so maybe the offer that they put out there is obviously not as good as like Baltimore's, but the only way I see it happening is if they can put their two best farm system players and put another 1 or 2 and then take on Javi Baez also. Yeah, that would be the only other way. But so for me, I guess last thing, put a bow on it with the Tigers is if a team if Baltimore is willing to just give you a no-brainer, or if Boston is willing to give you a no-brainer, then I think you have to take it. Mm-hmm. But if you're not even going to listen to offers and you are just set in stone with Tariq Skubal, I'm fine with that. Mm-hmm. But it's time to start putting some fucking money into it this offseason then. Yes. 100%. Because you only have Skubal for 2 more years after this, and then you're going to have to pay him, and he is a Scott Boras guy, so he's going to get paid. Yeah. And so my thing is, if they want to go for it and they want to keep him and they don't want to shop him, then you better put some fucking money into it this offseason and try, because it's not like they're that far off. They're not that bad. They're not good, but they're not that bad. They're missing that offensively. They got to get a lot better. But pitching wise, they're set up to win games and be able to compete for a playoff spot.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, 2Ks, it is that time. Let's talk college game day locations. Now we can skip past week 1 because we already know which they're going to be at the Notre Dame, Texas A&M. So we can just bypass that one. Now, before we get into kind of the meat and potatoes here, I have some theories. And I want you to kind of tell me if I'm ridiculous or if I'm looking at this the wrong way. Okay? Had some big name coaches leave. Mm-hmm. I mean, primarily Jim Harbaugh, Nick Saban, 2 of the biggest coaches in college football, gone. So, historically, at least here in the past 5 years, those 2 places or those 2 teams have been highly sought after by College Game Day just because of the rivalries that have come up, with those 2 teams. Now, what happens if and I'm not saying this is a Michigan hater or an Alabama hater, even though I am an Alabama hater. But what if towards the end of the season these teams aren't good or they aren't in the mix? That's my main question here. The next one, I think they're going to focus on, and them being whoever decides where game day is, which we can all agree a lot of times has to do with the standings. Mm. They want the hottest game in town. They're going to go set up at the hottest spot, for the whole slate. So, but I have a feeling they're going to be focusing on new conference members that have joined the Big Ten and the SEC a lot. The left coast going into the Big Ten, Texas, Oklahoma going into the SEC. I think those new matchups or matchups we haven't seen outside of a bowl or haven't seen for a while, I think we're going to see those. They're going to try to pub those just because they're like brand new toys.
Sure, absolutely.
And then lastly, I have a very good feeling we're going to see at least one game day at a Big Ten school in the cold playing against one of the left coast teams. Mm-hmm. I have a couple on here for possibilities, but I have a feeling that is going to be prime time because that's something we all want to see. Mm-hmm. Okay, are any of those things outlandish?
No.
Okay, so I'm not completely off my rocker then. So week 2, in my opinion, this one was kind of a slam dunk. Got to go Texas at Michigan.
Absolutely. I think that one's easy.
And looking at the rest of the slate, there really wasn't anything that jumped off the page. I mean, you look at all the heavy hitters, and they're still playing kind of cupcakes for the most part. But yeah, I think for the money, I'm actually shocked they haven't come out and said that they're going to be there already. But it would absolutely floor me if that was any other game on the slate.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other way. And for me, it's probably the most intriguing early season matchup that there is, because you have two teams that were in the playoff last year. You have Michigan, who's probably the most disrespected national champion there is, just because everybody's kind of writing them off right now and saying that they do. They have a gauntlet of a schedule. But what if they beat Texas in this game?
What if they demoralize them?
I mean, and it's like, yeah, they lost a lot. They're obviously, we don't even know who's going to be the quarterback right now. There's a competition between three different kids of who's going to be the quarterback. You don't have Blake Corum anymore. You don't have your best wide receiver anymore. But you got pretty much everybody back on that defense, who they proved, and especially last year in the playoff, that is the best defense in college football. And they got all those guys back. And you have a who I think is going to be the quarterback, who is a very mobile quarterback. And so it sets right up to what Michigan does best. You know that they're going to have a good offensive line, and you know that they're going to run the football. And now you're going to have a quarterback that is more mobile than what McCarthy was. I mean, who's to say that they're not that when Texas faces them in week 2, they're not gonna be able to run all over them? And if they do, and say Michigan wins this game by a couple of scores, could change the whole outlook of the season as far as what people think about them. Because I don't know. For me personally, the quarterback situation scares me. That's really about the only thing that truly scares me with them. But I still think they're still a very tough team to beat.
Oh yeah, especially at home. And I have a feeling Michigan Stadium or the Big House will have quite a few orgies in the end zone throughout the season. I just had to throw that in there. But no, to me, it's a huge statement game for Michigan. And like I said, you hit the nail on the head. There's two playoff teams there, two potential playoff teams this year. So to me, that's kind of a no-brainer. Now, week 3 is a little bit different story here, 2Ks. Week 3, I have two possibilities here that kind of jumped off the page at me. One of which is going to kind of play into my number one point, and is going to depend on how good Wisconsin is. Are we going to see Alabama in Big Ten country? Granted, early in the season, so it's not going to be super cold. But are we going to see Alabama at Wisconsin? Or another one that I threw on here is West Virginia Pitt, the backyard brawl, I think it's called, which it seems like that used to be more of a game day type atmosphere in that rivalry, but it seems to, because both the teams haven't really been good in quite a while. But then again, it's going to depend on how good those two teams are. But I think with that one, with the history and the rivalry and stuff, I'm kind of giving the nod to that one, because I went back and Wisconsin has two pretty much layups right before the Alabama game, so that could be a potential, just because Alabama brings star power. One other possibility would be LSU at South Carolina. Good rivalry there. But as far as your pristine, prime time, must see games, I think those are the three biggest ones. But as far as giving the nod, I think I'm leaning West Virginia Pitt.
Yeah, this is a tough week looking through. There's a couple, possible rivalry games. You look at the Oregon State game, and then you have the Washington State game. So I look at two teams where Washington, even though they lost a lot, they lost their head coach, they were still in the national championship last year, so you have to respect that. And then you have Oregon, who I think is kind of a dark horse favorite to maybe possibly win the whole thing this year.
Especially
if
Phil Knight cuts a blank fucking check.
Yeah, and that's where that one to me is kind of interesting and intriguing to me, and I think maybe gets the nod from game day. that they go to Oregon for Oregon State.
I could see that.
Just because we want everybody to get eyes on Oregon right off the bat early in the season and see them in a primetime game. So that's where I'm going with it.
And let's see here. Who does Michigan play?
Arkansas State.
Notre Dame's at Purdue. So kind of a weak slate there for our teams. But week four, I have a potential USC at Michigan matchup. Kind of the first left coast coming over into the Big Ten, big spotlight. Another one I kind of had. I had two games listed: the USC at Michigan or Baylor at Colorado, just because game day has to sneak Coach Prime on game day at least once. I mean, that's kind of the rule right now, right?
Yeah.
Even though that Colorado team is going to be terrible.
To me, this week depends on what Michigan does against Texas. Michigan beats Texas. How do you pass up that basically that for years and years that Rose Bowl matchup of Michigan versus USC?
Yeah.
And this time Michigan wouldn't have to go to California for the game. Right. It would be USC coming to Ann Arbor for it. If Michigan wins week 2 against Texas, the game, I think it has to be Michigan USC here, just because there's not any other ones that really, pop out to me. I mean, it's that early, those first 3-4 weeks of the season. Yep. It's very hard to find good matchups. You might only have one or two of them a week. But if it doesn't go there, like say Michigan loses to Texas in week 2, they're probably not going to pull to Ann Arbor, after only 1 week off for it. So then I would have to go Baylor, Colorado.
And yeah, my note says kind of a weak slate.
Yeah. And here's another one though. Why I think Baylor, Colorado is a good one is because you have the Dion show there in Colorado, playing against a legit opponent in Baylor. People are going to want to see that.
Ooh, USC at Michigan's a 3:30 kickoff. Huh? I like that. Notre Dame plays Miami of Ohio, so definitely not unless you're a diehard Notre Dame fan like I am. I mean, most casual watchers are not going to be tuning in for that matchup. But yeah, that was the one, catch Coach Prime early in the season before this team absolutely falls apart. So yeah, I'm right there with you on that one. Week 5.
Easy.
Week 5. Yeah, Georgia, Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
and you know what? There's other good games that week, but you are not passing up on Georgia, Alabama. It can't happen. There's other intriguing ones, especially some of the. So you got it's going to be a Big Ten game, but it should be it could be a Pac-12 game with Oregon, UCLA playing against each other. So that one's interesting because now they'll have Big Ten on the shoulder of their their jerseys.
Short flight.
That one's an intriguing one. Oklahoma playing their first SEC game against Auburn. That would be that's another good game, but no, it's that one's an obvious.
Yeah.
Georgia, Alabama. I mean,
that one you can pencil in for sure. And on top of that, it's a 7:30 game.
Yeah.
So with those SEC games, you never know if they're going to be at noon or at 7:30. But most of the time, those are the 2 time slots that those guys are in. But yeah, and Ohio State plays possibly their toughest opponent, and they're going to Michigan State. If you look at Ohio State's schedule leading up to this, yes, Michigan State is their most difficult opponent so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one was an easy one. That one was an easy one. Week 6, what do we got here?
This one's tough. I mean,
there's
some good matchups. Really good matchups. You have last year's national championship, Michigan and Washington.
Yep.
To me, I don't know how much I carry on Washington to be real big. There's a chance that Michigan could possibly already be playing in a couple different college game day days, so they don't necessarily want to cover Michigan again.
I've got Iowa at Ohio State.
Iowa at Ohio State is a really good one. I think just kind of what I wrote down, what I personally thought was Clemson at Florida State.
Yeah, and that Florida State team is very intriguing because, they're which Florida State team are you going to get? Mm-hmm. If it's the last year's team, even though quarterback went down, they still kept winning.
Yeah,
they kept winning ugly. But which Florida State team are we getting? Which Dabo team are we getting? Clemson hasn't been the draw that they've been, in prior years. So to me, there's this week in particular, I have super lame slate just because there isn't that one that jumps out. There's a lot of very good matchups, a lot of matchups that 5 years ago would be must-watch TV, but now it's like I don't know, and there really isn't even any good action. I mean, you can't even really highlight any of the MAC teams here because there always seems to be that week where it's the kind of the obscure, where they go to the historically black college, and so possibly we might be getting into that type of situation. But I have a feeling that Iowa and Ohio State will both be undefeated going into this matchup, and I think that one kind of reigns supreme over this one. Which one are you picking?
Man, I think I got to stick with what I said earlier. I'm going to stay with Florida State Clemson.
Okay.
I agree with you, and I do like that matchup. As far as the Ohio State Iowa, I think if you fast forward to week 7, even though week 7 is so hard to pick, I think you end up with Ohio State week 7 that they're covering. So I'm going to keep it with the Clemson Florida State game, just because I don't think they're going to want to go Ohio State two weeks in a row.
Speaking of week 7,
week 7 is so hard to pick, but I just can't go away from that matchup between Ohio State Oregon.
Yeah, that is. I have.
I mean, you have maybe the two most exciting teams to watch as far as offensive star power, and what they want to do, what they like to do. Good chance that Heisman is gonna come off of one of these two teams.
I'm leaning a different way. I'm going Texas at Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's another good one. And so is the other one I was looking at. Ole Miss and LSU is another really good SEC game. My thing with LSU is they can't stop anybody.
Nope.
I think they're a little
Jaden
bit.
Daniels isn't there anymore.
Yeah, I just think they're a little overrated. But I cannot go away from Ohio State Oregon here just because of this could be the national championship game, and it wouldn't shock anybody. And Ohio State with what's his name as the offensive coordinator now, Chip Kelly used to be the head coach at Oregon years ago. Kind of probably should give him the credit of he's the one that put Oregon on the map.
Sure. Oh, 1,000%.
I mean, so to me, there's just too many storylines with that game. And obviously Oregon moving to the Big Ten, Ohio State having to go to the West Coast and play them for this game. Your two probably most high-powered offenses that you have in college football. Like how do you steer away from this one?
And if you're wondering, you can take in Akron at Western Michigan at Waldo Stadium for tickets as low as $17. So. But no, this one's this is a good slate. There's many games that I will be keeping an eye on. But yeah, week 7 is definitely going to be a barn burner for sure. Let's go to week 8.
There are so many good. We talked about it last year at the end of the year with, obviously, I don't think either one of us were huge fans of teams changing conferences and the way that things kind of go into these two hybrid conferences of the SEC and the Big Ten, and unfortunately for the other conferences, it does definitely take away from them. It takes away from the ACC. It takes away from the Big 12. It takes away from what's left of the Pac-12. But these matchups week in and week out that the Big 10 and the SEC are going to be putting on for us are just fucking insane. And for week 8, you have to go to the SEC here, Georgia, Texas.
Yep, that's what I have. But I also put not super confident. So.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama, Tennessee. Tennessee could be a dark horse in the SEC. Alabama, they could be. Just. I think everybody's worried because it's not Nick Saban there, but let's not forget that, who they hired was probably the best coach that they could have asked for this offseason. With maybe you can make an argument for that Oregon head coach there that maybe he would have been the better fit there in Alabama. With his ties to that area, but Alabama is still going to be damn good.
Yeah, they're even though they did have a lot of transfers, the cupboard is not bare at all. That's why same with Michigan. That cupboard is not bare at all. So as far as them, I don't see either team having a huge drop off as far as performance is concerned. It's just going to be moving forward with the recruiting under the different regimes. How are they going to? What's the different approach here? And I think in Michigan's case, their new coach was most likely involved in the recruiting process to begin with, similar to Marcus Freeman in Notre Dame under Brian Kelly. You know, a lot of the reasons, especially on the defensive side, that kids were going to choosing Notre Dame was because of Coach Freeman. So I have a feeling being in the system kind of sets, you're not starting from scratch almost. You're kind of continuing that Michigan recruiting tradition.
Right.
No one's going to recruit like Saban, hands down.
Agreed.
No one, and no one ever will. So that I think is going to be a harder sell than the Michigan type of thing. So, but yeah, I've got Georgia at Texas just because, like I said, the new toys. I have a very good feeling that we're going to get a lot of SEC and a lot of Big Ten, just because they're the two best conferences in the country, the two biggest conferences, and they have the best teams.
Yeah, I mean, and like I keep going back to that week 2 matchup of Texas and Michigan and just how big that game is for each team. And so Texas wins that game against Michigan, and that just catapults them. And to me, Texas wins against Michigan and say they go into Ann Arbor and win convincingly. If they do that, you have to put them at the top. Like, they are the team to be.
Yep.
And then when you talk about Georgia's going to play with a chip on their shoulder this year.
Oh yeah,
they're not happy with how shit went down last year with them being snubbed, and it showed when they just demolished Florida State.
Yeah.
Obviously, Florida State doesn't have their quarterback. They're playing their third string quarterback in that game, but that was a personal game for Georgia where they
100%.
won, and I expect nothing but anything different when this season starts off, to where there's a chance that this game right here, Georgia Texas, could be number 1, number 2 in the nation when they play right here.
Sure, absolutely. Well, let's look at Week 9 2Ks. Are we going to have two? Are we going to have Texas back to back? Are we going to have Texas back to back? No, excuse me, that's Texas A&M. I can't read. And Week 9, I've got highlighted LSU at Texas A&M or Michigan State at Michigan if Michigan State doesn't suck. That's the key.
I did a little bit of thinking and went a little bit outside the box.
Ooh,
I went with who I think is going to be a dark horse team to possibly play in the playoff this year. And I'm going Kansas. Ooh. And I'm putting Kansas as a possible playoff team. So I'm going Kansas and Kansas State here.
Ooh, I like it. Yeah, this is an odd week. Let's see here. Yeah, Alabama playing Missouri, Oklahoma at Ole Miss. That could be fun. LSU at Texas A&M. I think that Texas A&M. It's kind of odd that they're leading off week 1 with Notre Dame, because it's not traditionally what we think of as a powerhouse team. Since Manziel. There's been a lot of coaching turnover, a lot of turnover period down there. So the LSU at Texas A&M is going to have Texas A&M play their part. Even if they lose week 1 or win week 1, I mean, there's still some tests that this team some hurdles that they have to jump through to be able to get this game there. But I like that sneaky pick. I like it because there's always at least 1 week where you're like, I didn't even know that game was on the schedule, and now game day's going there. I like it. All right, week 10, and I have this denoted as we're getting into November now. 2Ks. We're getting into November, and like I said, one of my predictions is we're going to see the weather play a part in this. Everyone wants to see, or at least the fans of the Big Ten want to see how these West Coast teams play in the Midwest on the East Coast. Well, let's just limit it to the Midwest because I have a very good feeling that College Game Day is not going to Rutgers. Penn State is probably the most east that they'll go in the Big Ten. Let's just be real. But yeah, I don't have one of those slated for this week. Well, kind of. There's Ohio State at Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
There's Oregon at Michigan. Let's see here. And I think that's about the two biggest games on the slate there.
Yeah, Florida Georgia would be the only other one that you could probably consider here. But I gotta go. Oregon, Michigan.
That is a good one. Both games I think will be very, very good. Both games. It's just with the Ohio State at Penn State. Like I said, Penn State usually does get one of these games, just because, and especially in this time frame, because the weather isn't too shitty. So that's kind of my thought process there. But it's and once you get this far in the schedule, it's like, okay, a lot of these big matchups could be shit because of their records. But I have a very good feeling that, especially like we've pointed out with the Ohio State schedule, not nearly as difficult as you can kind of tell than the Michigan schedule. And believe me, folks, that does not change going forward. So kind of keep that in mind as we go about this. Michigan's schedule is a gauntlet. That's saying it, saying it lightly.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of people, might be saying, hey, I'm being really, really biased to Michigan in this, calling a lot of their shots. It's because of that schedule.
Yeah.
You know, when you were playing against those caliber of teams, they got 5 games that they played where, hey, if Michigan's offense figures it out and they are able to put points on the board, we know what their defense can do. And with all the NFL talented players that they have on that defense, College Game Day is going to be showing up to watch those games. So that's why I keep picking them. And it's not that I'm just a Michigan homer. It's who they're playing
games.
against.
Yeah.
I want to see. Oregon to me is a top 5 team. I want to see that. And Texas in week 2 is a top 5 team. I want to see that.
Yeah, it's all dependent on Michigan taking care of business first and foremost.
Yep, 100%.
So let's jump ahead to.
That's the thing, and that's realistic. I mean, that I'm not going to sit here and just. I'm confident that I think Michigan's going to be very legit this year again. But say Michigan loses to Texas, say they lose to USC, say they lose another to Washington, say they lose like that. Okay, now Michigan, Oregon at this point in the season is out the window. They're not going to show up there now. But if Michigan does what they're supposed to, and they're at this point, and maybe they only got 1 loss on the board. They're gonna want to be watching. They're gonna want to be in Ann Arbor for when Oregon comes to town.
Oh, hands down. Week 11 is kind of a slam dunk for me. I got Bama at LSU. The only other one that I even wrote down would be Florida State at Notre Dame, but that's the homer pick in me.
Yeah.
But there's
and Georgia, Ole Miss too.
Yeah.
Can Lane Kiffin keep the ship rolling there in Ole Miss? That could be a pretty damn good game also. And
again, Lane Kiffin, I'm sure that is dedicating the season to his father. Rest in peace. But yeah, to me, this one that's Alabama LSU. That's the easy pick for me. Week 12. What do we got going on? Week 12 here, 2Ks. I have Oregon at Wisconsin just because of the weather.
Yeah. And this is a week of just not very good. Not like what we're used to of seeing as far as all these weeks. I have to agree with you here. I'll say Oregon at Wisconsin.
So I have a very good feeling Virginia at Notre Dame is not going to garner a whole lot of attention. But yeah, it's kind of a weird week. Barn burner over in Maryland against Rutgers. That's always a huge pull. Georgia, Tennessee, maybe. I definitely have LSU, Florida State, or Alabama. Oh, hold on. I lost track here. Yeah, Alabama, LSU. All right. Week 13, 12. No, 13.
13, yeah. Another week that's not great.
I have Alabama at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That's kind of the only. I had no other ors here. Now, week 14. Week 14's got some bangers. Week 14 has some bangers. And week 13 also features Army at Notre Dame. Tradition, I get it. But as far as garnering the national attention, I don't think that one's high on the slate. But week 14 2Ks is when it goes bananas.
Yeah.
It goes bananas.
Kind of gives us like 2 weeks of a little bit of a lull,
Yeah.
not a lot of good games. You can pick like one good game out of those 2 weeks. But then you get to this one and there's like 6 that you can choose from.
Auburn at Bama. I've got, of course, it's Michigan at Ohio State, Notre Dame at USC, and then Florida at Florida State.
Yeah. Washington at Oregon.
Yep.
Georgia Tech, Georgia. Oklahoma State, Colorado. Could be talking about 2 Heisman finalist players and 3. I mean, Colorado might have 2.
Yeah. But no, I think that if both Michigan and Ohio State have less than one win or less than one loss each, that is where it's going to be.
Yeah.
Just because the rivalry, the history, and now the question is that, and this is kind of where a lot of conspiracy theories are going to show up to be like, all right, well, if both teams are projected to, because now this is the first year where they're taking the top 2 teams from the Big Ten, not the top from the East, top from the West, to play in the Big Ten title game. So if both of these teams are already locked in to play each other for the Big Ten title game, how many players are they playing? Are you playing all your starters? What type of game are you actually going to get? And then look forward to if these 2 teams could possibly see each other a third time in the playoffs. So this is kind of where a lot of the things kind of get, which by the way, this as people who live and die with Big Ten football, this is what we've wanted to see.
Oh, 100%. But this is so what I touched on just a couple of minutes ago. By changing these conferences up, look at the matchups that we get week in, week out. Now, on the other side of that, these games in week 14 of the season that used to mean so much, like everything, when Michigan played Ohio State last year, everything was on the table.
Sure.
You lose, you're done. You win, you have a chance to go play for national championship. Now in this game,
And go play Iowa.
I think we're going to see at least 4 teams from the SEC and at least 4 teams or at least 3 teams from the SEC and at least 3 teams from the Big Ten in the playoff, and probably 4 from each in the playoff. That's where we're at. Good chance you're going to get 4 from one of those conferences in there. So what happens is, even though we have all those great matchups, and that's awesome, what's unfortunate with it is now that we get to week 14, not everything's on the table.
No.
This Michigan and Ohio State matchup is just not as good as what it was in years past, because now there's a chance that you're going to turn around and play against each other 1 week after.
Yep.
Or there's a chance you're going to turn around and play against a month after. And for me personally, I don't know if maybe it's going to be great. Maybe that's what people want to see. And maybe in the end of it all, we haven't seen it yet. Maybe it's going to be great to watch. But for me personally, how I feel about it right now, I like it when you get to the end of the season and those games matter.
Sure.
And I love it when a conference championship matters. And I don't think a conference championship really means all that much anymore. Obviously, you want to win it, and it's probably part of your team goals. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, all you want to do is have a chance in that 12-team playoff. Yep. You want to have a chance to go win it all. That's all you want. That's all you can ask for. So that, to me, is where a little bit of the taking pride in winning, being the best team in your conference and all that, I think is a little bit out the window.
Yeah. But like I said, I would much rather put up with that situation to have these same 2 teams play the very next week rather than one of these teams play a totally outmanned, out-athleted team from the West, like we've seen prior, whether it's Wisconsin or Iowa or insert name of inferior team here. And speaking of those teams, that's kind of one of the big what ifs for the Big Ten with me is year 2, Luke Fickell. Year 2, Matt Rule. How neither one of them had the season they wanted to kick off their new career. You would have to think, especially Nebraska. I mean, that is with Matt Rule there. He is the recruiting king, I guess. Let's say, and it's going to be a test to see, with Luke Fickell, is he that legit of a coach to now be doing it with the big boys? Even though Cincinnati is now with the Big 12 or whatever, and that's they're not associated with that conference anymore. But yeah, to me that's something to watch too. Is some of these middle of the road Big 10 schools, especially those two in particular, and I'm going to throw Iowa in there too. Can Cade McNamara stay healthy for the whole year? If he can, that's a whole different team. I mean, they're not having to rely on their defense to score touchdowns, or now. I mean, their punter's gone. I mean, he was legit the MVP the last 2 years of that team. So how's that? And now they have a new offensive coordinator there. How's that going to play out? And to me, that's where those type of teams, I think there's going to be one of them that's going to upset the apple cart here for one of the top or higher tiered Big 10 schools. So that's what's exciting to me. But I would much rather have kind of the pomp and circumstance, I guess you could say, be dwindled a little bit with this Michigan-Ohio State Week 14 if we get to see them play in the Big 10 title. However, if the same team loses both of those games, that could potentially be a year out.
Yeah, 100%
from the top 12.
100%. Yeah, especially if other teams in the Big 10 are winning. I have no reason to believe that Oregon's not going to be in the thick of things right here, and they're going to be a playoff team. In my opinion, if the season started tomorrow, I would have Oregon in.
Yeah. But especially if one of these teams has one or two losses coming into this, because with 12 teams, it's not a one loss and you're done situation anymore. No. And if let's say if it's Ohio State, Michigan comes in undefeated. Ohio State has 2 losses. They lose week 14. They're still playing Michigan for the conference title, and they lose again, taking them to 4 losses. Now you're looking at a possibility of not only are you're just done. Granted, you lost the Big 10, and then you're out of the playoffs completely. Do I think that's going to be the case, and especially this year? No, but it's possible. It's possible to rack up 2 losses against the same opponent 2 weeks in a row. Isn't unheard of. Yeah. Isn't unheard of. And especially what we've seen historically with these two programs, anything's possible. Yeah. Anything's possible.
And it's going to be like, so to me this year, and it's going to change every year, because strength of schedule is going to be a thing.
Oh, yes.
And so like Michigan having 3 losses this year, I still think that I think Michigan with 3 losses, and say they beat Ohio State, they have a better chance of getting in than Ohio State with only 1 loss, just the 1 loss to Michigan, because of who Ohio State plays. Ohio State has 2 games on their schedule that are really even worth tuning in for.
Yeah.
It's Oregon and Michigan. Those are the only 2 teams that I think even have a chance of beating them. Other than that, Iowa. I mean, Iowa can play good defense, but can Iowa score over 10 points?
Right.
No, I don't think so. And so it's going to be fun to watch and see the way that it shakes out, because Oregon has a pretty legit schedule. Like they're playing some good teams. Michigan playing some good teams. And as years go on, I think you're going to start seeing where teams start to take the approach where they take on a team like Texas, a team like I think Ohio State's going to jump in on that. They did for a couple years with Notre Dame, playing Notre Dame early in the season, and that's no longer. But
should have won last year.
Ohio State's going to do it just because that strength of schedule is going to matter when they get beat a time or two in the Big Ten, to make sure that, hey, we beat this team, we still deserve a spot in the 12. So.
And Ryan Day always seems to have that one week where he just can't get it all together.
Yeah, normally in November in Ann Arbor in the last 3 years.
Well, usually it's prior to that.
Yeah.
Usually it's prior to that, but yeah. Well, 2Ks, that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. Definitely something we'll have to continue to do here on the show. But yeah, next week I think we're going to. You want to do the top 10 receiver quarterback duos in the NFL next week.
Yeah. Yeah, it's time to...
And they have to be wide receivers. Yeah. So no tight ends.
No tight ends.
So, because we've got a lot of different faces in new places and a lot of new faces in new places. So, see, I think it's going to be... It's going to be more interesting than in years past because I have a feeling that the same top 5 that I have is going to be slightly different than yours. And hopefully Mr. Christian Hudson can join us next week as well. So everyone stay tuned. We will see you next week. Probably should ask if there's anything you needed to add there, 2Ks, before we sign off.
No. It feels good to talk about football again.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
You can... There for some weeks we were pulling some NBA shit out. I think we both can agree we don't like talking about that.
No.
Baseball we love baseball, and I love talking about it. But I think when summer's kind of winding down and you start getting the feelings of fall and football starting, I think it's very safe to say that majority of the people that listen to us, they enjoy tuning in for the football talk probably the most. And as much as I love baseball, and baseball is my favorite, football is my favorite thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I can connect with so many people.
Oh, absolutely.
On that football platform.
And before we do jump off here, I did want to address we are still doing the fantasy football, of course. So I'll be getting that around here shortly. So those of you that are participants, continue to keep an eye on the Facebook group, facebook.com/group/2K Crew. Get in on there. And, we will see you next week. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.